Can you become fluent in a language without talking to speakers of that language? Kind of. Maybe not fluent, but you can at least level up your speaking skills. So here are 4 activities that you can do by yourself at any time to build up your speaking skills and train your brain to think in your target language. If you're familiar with my channel, then as you can guess, I'll be using Korean as my example language for each of these activities, but of course you can use these activities with any language. So let's go ahead and get started. The 20 sentences grid. For this activity, you're going to draw a 4x5 grid on paper or a dry erase board, wherever. Then you're going to pick a topic for your level. If you're a beginner or intermediate, you can do something like simple past or simple future, like what did you do today, or what will you do tomorrow. If you're more advanced, you can choose to tell a funny story or talk about your opinion on a recent movie or something like that, for example. I'm going to use what did you do today as my topic. Now you're just going to speak out loud about your topic, and each time you say a full sentence, you're going to check off a box on your grid. For example, 저는 일어났어요. 아침을 먹었어요. 도서관에 갔어요. 도서관에서 한국어를 공부했어요. 집에 갔어요. 집에서 점심을 먹었어요. Now, it's completely up to you as to how you want to do this. You can treat it as a slow practice where you think about how to piece together longer sentences using recently used words and grammar, but my recommendation is to treat this as a practice for fluidity. Being fluid in a language means that you're able to quickly and easily produce the language without a lot of thought. You may not use complicated grammar or advanced vocabulary, but you can convey what you're trying to say without constantly pausing and thinking and having moments of, oh, what was that word again? Or how can I form this sentence? I think most language teachers will agree that being fluid in a language will make it far easier for you to be able to speak and be understood by natives, and it's part of the path to becoming fluent. So until you know more advanced vocabulary and grammar, my recommendation is to use short and easy sentences. And this activity is going to turn those easy sentences into muscle memory. This is what my 5th graders in Korea sounded like doing this activity in English. This is my impression of one of my students. I will wake up. I will eat breakfast. I will eat egg, an egg. I will talk to my mom. I will talk to my dad. I will talk to my sister. I will talk to my dog. I will go to school. I will talk to my friends at school. I will talk to my teacher. Now, is this what a conversation is supposed to sound like? No, but they got so good at speaking without having to stop and think. They were literally easier to listen to than my high schoolers, despite knowing significantly less English than them. When you hit a sentence that you don't have the grammar or vocabulary for, just find a new way to say it using what you do know. For example, if you want to say, my friend made fun of me because I tripped over the door frame, and you don't know half the vocab or grammar in this sentence, break it down into short sentences with words that you do know. 문이 있었어요. 문이 열려 있었어요. 저는 들어갔어요. 넘어졌어요. 제 친구가 웃었어요. And now you've just marked off 5 sentences right there. You can jot down the words that you don't know to look up after you finish, and this will help you come up with a personalized list of vocabulary. But whatever you do, don't look them up while you're filling out the grid. Remember, you're practicing this for fluidity, so it ruins the flow if you stop to look up a word every time you don't know something. You can do this activity as a warm-up before you start studying, as a cool-down after you studied, before bed as a way to remember your day or plan out tomorrow, or even do several grids as the entire study session. I used to do 6 to 10 grids with my middle school and high school students whenever we had one-on-one sessions, and with more advanced students, I'd have them do something like summarize a recent TV show that they watched or tell me about a fight that they had with their sibling, anything along those lines. So try it out a few times and let me know how it goes. Walk and talk. Next time you're out for a stroll, try to narrate what's going on around you. You can adjust this to your level whether you're an absolute beginner or very advanced. If you're an absolute beginner, just start small by saying out loud words that you recognize in your target language. 꽃, 나무, 쓰레기통, 다리, 사람들, 물. You can then build by adding in adjectives. 아름다운 곳, 작은 나무, 귀여운 거북이, 외로운 거북이. And if you can do that okay, then you can start making simple sentences. 차가 있어요. 집이 많나요. 나무가 커요. 다람쥐를 봐요. 다람쥐가 있어요. 다람쥐가 있어요. 다람쥐가 있어요. 다람쥐가 있어요. The higher your level, the more complicated you can make your sentences. So let me show you some examples. 여기는 공원이에요. 오늘 공원에 다람쥐가 많나요? 여기는 크고 인기 있는 공원이에요. 놀이터에 웃고 있는 아이들이 있어요. 놀고 있는 아이들이 정말 행복해 보여요. 날씨가 좀 더운데도 공원에 있는 사람들이 다 즐거워 보이네요. You can do this for a set amount of time, like 2 to 5 minutes, or you can say 10 sentences at the beginning of your walk, or you can talk the entire time. During COVID, we were required to wear masks, which was kind of nice because I could talk out loud to myself while walking to and from work without looking completely insane. But now I just look insane. I'm just kidding. I just kind of mumble or wait until no one's around. If you really don't want to go outside, you can also do this with a random picture generator online or a picture book and just say a few sentences describing each picture. 여자, 머리카락, 얼굴, 옷, 다른 사람, 건물. 다리, 건물, 도시, 하늘, 파란색, 물. I used to do this with my students where they would have 20 seconds to say as much as they could about a picture to their partner before I'd change it to a new picture. And we would do 3 to 6 pictures as a warm-up or in the last few minutes before class ended. Video game 혼자 말하기. Video or computer games. You can either treat this like walk and talk, in which case maybe we should call it activity 2.5, or I have some ideas to make this much more interesting. First, if you want to treat it like walk and talk, you can start by describing things around you in the game. I like to set a timer for 3 to 5 minutes and just speak out loud what I'm doing or what's going on around me. This can be a little less daunting than walk and talk since you're talking from the comfort of your own home, but also you're coming across probably a lot more interesting vocabulary that you're not necessarily going to see on your walk. But let's get into some other ideas to make this a fully separate activity from walk and talk, and personally, I think much more interesting. Okay, so this might sound like a game of children playing pretend, but if we call it a role-playing exercise, then it doesn't feel so weird. Or you could actually play with real friends, but that's not the point of this video. I like to pretend like there's another character in the game with me and imagine what I would say to that character if we were on the adventure together. For example, 저쪽으로 가야지. 제 꿈이 필요해. 죽었어. 시야식도 필요해. 저 사람이 왜 저래? 죽었어. Like with the grid activity, for words that you don't know, you can keep a list next to you and look them up later. I don't recommend pausing and looking up the words right away because the point of all of these activities is to just get a good flow going on. Just use your native language word until you know the word in your target language. Now, if you're more advanced, you can try imagining that you're a YouTuber making a playthrough for your viewers, explaining how to do things in the game, like solve puzzles in the game, or giving your opinions or suggestions on something. 더 깊은 곳을 탐험하려면 잠수정을 업그레이드 해야 돼요. 업그레이드 하려면 매그네타이트가 필요하죠. 매그네타이트를 찾기 가장 좋은 것은 젤리 보소 동굴이에요. Another intermediate to advanced activity is to play the game in your target language, and whether or not you understand everything, read everything out loud. 가게에서 안 파는 옷을 되팔고 나서 후회한 적 없어? Or even harder, you can play the game in your native language, but then try to translate everything back into your target language. Depending on what game you play, this can be really hard, but you can make it easier by just trying to give an easy translation instead of an exact translation. I like to imagine that I'm playing with a Korean friend who speaks zero English, so I have to give them a super easy translation. Video games are a really easy way to gather a lot of vocabulary. Again, you can keep a list of words that you want to look up later if you want, or you can just play and not worry about it. The last thing that you need to do is turn a game into a chore. What I like to do is keep a list, and then I take that list to a cafe the next morning during my normal study session, and then I look everything up at that time and then practice with those new words then. Shadowing. The final activity is shadowing. Shadowing is when you watch or listen to someone speaking your target language, and then you repeat after them, either by pausing after each line or phrase, or by speaking right after the person. The goal is to copy their exact intonation and rhythm as best you can. So if the native speaker says, 그러니까, then you say, 그러니까. You can do this by either pausing and repeating after each line or phrase, or by speaking right after the person. Let's first look at the pause and repeat method. If you're a beginner, I recommend picking something where you have the script at the same time. I downloaded a Chrome extension called Language Reactor on my computer, so when I watch Netflix, I can set it to pause after each line, and I can also see the script on screen. Or there's also the option to print it out, which is also nice because then you can make notes on new words at the same time. Let's see what this looks like.
그런데 햇빛 때문에
그런데 햇빛 때문에
눈사람이 녹아버릴지도 모르겠네.
눈사람이 녹아버릴지도 모르겠네. 네? For beginners, you can slow down the speed if you need to, or pause just after a phrase rather than a full sentence.
안 추다니.
안 추다니. 옛날부터 쳤는데. 내가 불의 제국 전통춤
몇 가지를 알고 있는데 보여줄까?
몇 가지를 알고 있는데 보여줄까?
업무 익히시면
좋을 것 같다고 부회장님께서 내리신 결정이에요. Also, if you're a beginner, I really recommend Peppa Pig because it's been dubbed in like 20 languages on Netflix, and there are also clips on YouTube, although usually they don't have captions on YouTube, but they use everyday vocabulary and they speak extremely slowly and clearly, and it's just a good starting point if they have it in the language that you're trying to learn. Okay, anyway, so that's the pause and repeat technique. So now let's look at the shadowing technique. Shadowing is when you repeat after the speaker without pausing and as soon as you recognize a word.
생각해보게 되니까 조금 더 상대방이랑 좀 더 제대로 대화를 나눌 수도 있고 또 모국어로 막 이렇게 표현을 바로 해버리면 뭐랄까 생각보다 남에게 상처를 주게 될 수도 있잖아요. 그래서 이럴 때
This is definitely more advanced, but it can be adjusted for beginner and intermediate level too by just repeating anything that you recognize. For beginners, this might look like the occasional sporadic word or phrase, and that's totally fine.
근데 요즘은 낮잠을 그렇게 꼭 자지 않아도 굉장히 건강하고 뭔가 하는데 힘들지 않다는 생각이 많이 들어요. 그리고 제가 주말에는 남편이랑 막 멀리까지 나가서 여기저기 산책하는 걸 좋아하거든요.
Now, because you're not forming your own speech, you might think that neither of these methods are a good way to practice speaking, but I would actually argue that this is one of the best ways to practice speaking, pronunciation, intonation, listening, and becoming familiar with native phrases. I like to call it the compound exercise of language practice. I used to do this as the first exercise of my speaking practice for the day because it gets your mouth and tongue muscles primed for your target language, so all speaking that you practice after that will sound much closer to native level. You'll also expose yourself to the true way that natives speak, like hearing words that are commonly slurred together, like how in English we often combine want to into wanna, or going to into gonna. I would recommend shadowing for anywhere from 5 minutes as a warm-up or up to an hour for the full practice. I used to do 30 minutes a day on my study days, and now I often do it in the car following along with YouTube videos or podcasts. Usually I'll just pick a vocabulary word from my flashcards, search it on YouTube, and then pick a video that's at least 10 minutes long with someone speaking, and ideally saying that vocabulary word several times throughout the video. If your target language is Korean, then Talk to Me in Korean has Pipim Chat on YouTube or Iyagi in podcasts. And again, I really recommend the Language Reactor Google Chrome extension for Netflix if that's an option for you, because I think it's by far the easiest for the pause and repeat method. Okay, some final thoughts. You can adjust each of these activities to whatever fits your need as a language learner. They can be used as the warm-up or the full activity, or just the occasional way to switch it up when you're bored of your regular studying. I already had a set study plan every morning, so I used to do these activities as a supplement pretty much just whenever I felt like it. These 4 activities are just a few of the endless number of activities out there, and honestly, I can't wait to make more of these types of videos because speaking activities are by far my favorite to practice and to teach. If you're new to this channel and are interested in learning Korean specifically, then consider subscribing as I've got a number of beginner speaking lessons and more on the way. So, as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. 다음에 또 봐요.